So as the slide says, we are very close to the next date for data submission. The obligated producers are required to report your packaging data by the 1st of April. For large producers, that's the July to December 2024 data, and small producers, it's January to December 2024. You also need to register with your environmental regulator, so the Environment Agency, Natural Resources Wales, SEPA, Northern Ireland, and there are compliance issues if you do not. To be fair, other than small producers, you should have already registered. And when people, and you should encourage other people you know to register, because this is the way that those fees will get down, is by having everyone paying their share. And we are doing a lot of work, PackUK, DEFRA, and the environment agencies, all working together to make sure that we can try and increase the compliance and improve the data quality. To say as well, to remind you all that when you're thinking, I'd really like to be a bit more engaged in this, I'd really like to know more about how this, how I can really make a difference on EPR, that we have 3 advisory committees that are currently open. The applications for those close on the 24th of March. And there is one on recycling assessment methodology, so to help us make sure that what we say is recyclable is, and drive that agenda. Another on E&E to help local authorities become more efficient and more effective. And another on behaviour change and communications to help us really get that messaging across to both businesses and citizens. And we will be also starting the refresh cycle of the Scheme Administrator Steering Group in the summer, so keep an eye out for that. And the other thing is, if you're thinking, I could really do so much better job than Margaret, I know, I wish they'd just advertise her job. Well, funnily enough, your timing is just now. So we have 2 vacancies that we're currently advertising for. A Chief Strategy Officer, which the time's a bit close for, so that closes on the 14th of March. And the Chief Executive Officer for PackUK, which closes on the 18th of March, and both of those are available on civil service jobs.
So I'm going to bring in Joseph Shields for a readout update on PRNs. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So, DEFRA released a newsletter on Friday, the 28th of February, explaining that the functionality for producers and compliance schemes both to register and accept or reject PRNs and PERNs is now live on the EPR for packaging service. With regards to registration, both producers and compliance schemes need to register by enrolling in the RPD and paying the registration fee. Functionality to do this is also available in your RPD account, and if you don't already have an RPD account, you should enrol now. The deadline for registration and payment is the 1st of April 2025, and detailed guidance on producer registration can be found on the gov.uk guidance pages. With regards to PRNs and PERNs, if you are a direct producer or compliance scheme with a responsibility for meeting recycling obligations by 2025, then you should start using the EPR for packaging digital service to accept PRNs and PERNs towards your 2025 balance via the RPD portal. To note that you cannot use the NPWD to do this, and that the new functionality available on the EPR service includes searching or viewing PRNs and PERNs, accepting or rejecting PRNs and PERNs, downloading PRNs and PERNs, and you can also use the service to see the current amount of tonnage that you have accepted towards each material category. Functionality to see your individual recycling obligations for each material category for 2025 will be released later in the year, and after you have registered and submitted all your 2024 packaging data, and this has been accepted by the regulators. We have released on YouTube a video tutorial covering the functionality in more detail for accept or reject PRNs, and this can be found linked in the newsletter release that went out on the 28th of February. Next slide, please. Thank you. With regards to reprocessors and exporters, you can also look out for notifications that they will be starting to receive from NPWD that the PRNs and PERNs issued to producers and compliance schemes have been accepted or rejected by the recipient. The data connection, called the API, between NPWD and EPR refreshes overnight. This means that data updates can take up to 24 to 48 hours to flow between the two systems. DEFRA also held a webinar for reprocessors and exporters of UK packaging waste on the 27th of February 2025, and we are currently working on the video recording and Q&A script for this video, and this will also be released in the Circular Economy newsletter. So please do keep your eye out for future editions of the newsletter if you're interested in this. That's all for now on that one. I'll now pass over to our colleagues from the Environment Agency for an update from their side on EPR. I think it's Virginia. Are you coming in next?
It is. Hello.
Brilliant,
Hi there. Thank you very much for passing over. That's really helpful. That's great. Brilliant. Okay, yeah, if you want to go on to the next slide, please. I feel like we've already covered this slightly today, but there's no harm in saying it quite a few more times, just because that deadline is fast coming up. So the 1st of April, as was covered earlier, so large producers need to submit their H2 data, which is July to December data, onto the RPD EPR service, and they need to complete their registration via the same service with their respective environmental regulator. If you are a compliance scheme member, your registration will be undertaken by your compliance scheme. And there is a payment due with your registration as well. Small producers need to do exactly the same in terms of registration, but also they need to submit their 2024 full set of data to the regulator via the EPR service. So small producers, you need to enrol and then you need to register. So just to make sure that you enrol on the service before you register. I've just put a little threshold reminder there for people on the call, for anyone who's wondering what is captured under a small producer. There are tonnage thresholds and there are turnover thresholds. I'd really recommend producers and businesses go to the agreed positions guidance, which is available on NPWD, which is guidance from all 4 regulators, which set out a lot about thresholds, but also a lot of technical guidance with these regulations in case you have any compliance queries. We can go on to the next slide, please. So top tips and common errors. I did cover this on the last Business Readiness Forum, but I think, again, it's really important to try and highlight some of the errors that we've seen in the past on some of the data that we've had through the EA. So where we have reusable packaging, you only report this on first supply, but when you do report it, you need to report it twice in your report. So there's a line to report it as either household or non-household, and then there's another line that you need to submit to say that this is reusable packaging. All the guidance on how to do this is available on gov.uk. Again, other kind of areas that we've seen, drinks containers, you need to say the number of units, the drinks containers, and then the weight associated with that total number of units by material. Obviously, we've changed under the 2007 packaging regulations, we've changed to kilos rather than tonnages in your reporting. So it's really important that you are reporting in kilos rather than tons. As you can imagine, that makes quite a big difference to your reporting. And just being really clear about what packaging functions you're undertaking. There's also been incorrect formatting of producer CSV files. So for those who haven't submitted a file before, you need to submit your data under a CSV file, which is a type of kind of Excel file. Again, there's lots of really good guidance on how to do this and templates available on gov.uk. But where you have empty lines midway through a file or incorrect codes, we do have validations on the service, which will mean that you'll get an upload error message. If you do have trouble uploading your data, you'll need to contact the DEFRA service desk to understand why it's been rejected. But I really recommend reading the guidance and just checking how you need to report your packaging correctly. I'm going to go on to the next slide now, if that's okay. So this just to give you a bit of an overview on what the EA is doing. So in the last Business Readiness Forum or Circular Economy forum that we had, our colleagues from one of the other projects kind of outlined what the EA is doing in relation to, I believe it was simply recycling. But I just wanted to highlight in terms of EPR what the EA is doing. So we are delivering a range of regulatory activities. So we're checking data submissions as they come in. We've obviously had 2023 data, H1 24 data, and now we're receiving H2 24 data. And so where necessary, where we're kind of querying the data, where necessary, we're asking for resubmissions. We're undertaking on-site compliance audits. So there may be producers on this call that may have had some of our officers come out and audit them in person. This allows us to dig a bit deeper and make sure that people are reporting what they should be reporting. And we're working to bring non-compliant producers into the system. So between October 24 and the end of February, we at the EA have brought 841 suspected free riders into full compliance, with a further 192 who are due to submit their data shortly. And then 272 have been confirmed that they're no longer obligated. So it's a really, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And I just want to make sure that, that's recognised externally, is that we are doing all we can to make sure that this is a level playing field. The work to identify and pursue these suspected free riders is continuous. So we do have a dedicated team deployed to work on this, and they are working on this all year round. It isn't just a quick surge of work, it is all year round that we're bringing people in. We're also updating and publishing guidance to help those who are trying to comply and report as accurate as reasonably possible. We're trying to get as much guidance out there as we can to help you with that. And we're responding to compliance queries. So we have a whole team also working on just responding to compliance queries, of which we do get a lot. So we understand these are new regulations and there are a lot of nuances for people to be aware of. And obviously to undertake that work, we've had to expand our teams. So we're expanding and moving our existing teams onto EPR, expanding, bringing new people into the agency and onboarding them. So we're undertaking a significant amount of training to make sure that we have the teams in place to deliver more and more in this space. So all of this helps to drive data quality and completeness in the system. So hopefully that's kind of recognised. And then I think we'll go on to the next slide. So as I say, we are continuing to bring in suspected free riders. So we are actively encouraging producers, businesses, trade associations, whoever wants to. I wouldn't want to kind of narrow the scope. If you believe that there's a non-compliant business out there, we would like to know about it. We do have the list of large producers, which is currently published on gov.uk. If you suspect a business is not complying with the regulations and they're not on this list, we would encourage you to report this to the regulators directly by email. We also have a 24-hour telephone service, and you can also contact Crime Stoppers as well. So there's lots of different ways you can report this. What I would say is that someone might not be on the list of large producers because they're either going through the process of enrolling and reporting, they're not actually obligated, or it could be that their holding company name is different from, say, their household name that you might be aware of. But if you're in doubt, please just report it and it will get added to our list with our compliance team to investigate and escalate as necessary. So if we can go on to the next slide. Yeah, this is my final slide. It's just a quick one about queries. So as I say, we do have a whole team in place trying to respond to queries as quickly as we can. We do respond to them as kind of in order. So please have some patience while we try to make sure we respond to everyone. Please be very clear in your queries to make sure you can be quite specific so we can really make sure we give you the best advice available. Obviously, if it's a compliance query, please come to one of the environment agencies of your respective nation. And then if it's a question relating to RPD, so the digital service and how to upload, etc., or anything to do with recyclability assessment methodology, which is RAM, and anything on queries, please continue to go to the DEFRA help desk and they'll help to log that query and make sure it gets directed to the right person within DEFRA or PackUK. And I think that's it from me.